For men, respect isn't given for free, it's earned. When I was younger, I had gone to one school that was in the city. Well, when my family moved, we moved out to the country, and it wasn't so far that I couldn't have gone to that school, but I had a couple problems with that school. So I was on the football team. I was actually homeschooled, but I was on the football team for that school. And when I went to actually do the football training, it was all good for a while, but they kept putting me in the position of lineman. Now, obviously, I'm not that big. So when I was in middle school, I was pretty big. But they, for some reason, would not put me into the fullback position. That's the position that I really, really wanted, and I knew that I would be great at it. But they'd always put me in the lineman position, and I knew that the guys were outgrowing me. There was a lot of big guys, like 250 pounds. And I was thinking I can never outcompete these guys who are 250 pounds. But as a fullback, I can do a really, really good job. But the problem was they got in some new coaching staff, and they basically got rid of the fullback position. They wanted to do a lot of passing. Their goal was to be a big passing game. Whereas this other school out in the country that I'd never been to, they really, really liked the position of fullback. Fullback was central to how they played. They were a big, very heavy running team. And I decided that I wanted to go out to this country school. Now, when you go to a new school, obviously you aren't going to have the respect from everybody that you would expect, that you would have had at the old school. At the old school, everybody liked me. Everybody knew who I was. At this new school, nobody knew who I was, so I obviously didn't have the kind of credit and respect that I just naturally had playing football for years at the other school. But I decided to make the decision and go play football for this other school, the country school. So we have city school and country school. Now, there's a couple things that went into it. Obviously, they had the fullback position, so I wound up going into the country school for the fullback position. I also decided to go to that school because I was dating a girl who lived up there who was cheerleader. And she was a cheerleader for that school, so it just kind of seemed to make sense that I would go to that school and play football. Well, when I started playing football there and started coming to practices, everybody was pretty decent, but you can tell when you're the odd man out. Especially in a small school like that. When you're in a smaller country school, everybody kind of knows each other, and they've known each other since they were kids. So it's very cliquish. There's a lot of cliques, and when you come in as a new person, you're not a part of that. So you're the odd man out already. So how did I start earning the respect of these people? Well, what I wound up doing is, when I came in, everybody was pretty nice. There was a couple kids who were a little bit rough around the edges because, not that they're mean, they're not bad. They just simply want to test you. They want to see if you're going to bend or if you're going to break under pressure. So when I came in, and they also want to show their dominance. They want to put their authority in place. So for example, there was this one kid, I'm going to call him Jay, so you don't know his name. He was a senior. He was a big guy, kind of leaned towards the criminal side. Not that he was a bad guy, but that he was, slightly juvenile delinquent sort of kid. Every football team has that kid who's pretty good at what he does. He was a big lineman, but also is kind of a little bit of a juvenile delinquent and a ladies' man. That's what that guy was. And you just know the guy, if you know the guy. I think every school has that guy. And he wasn't mean, but he kind of, was obviously teasing me a little bit. He would call me Captain America when I first started on the team. Because I guess I just kind of looked clean. I'm kind of clean cut now. I don't always look clean cut, but usually I look pretty clean, pretty decent. And I had like a tighter shirt on just for exercise or whatever. And he was just, my nickname from him at first was Captain America. Later, he'd actually give me another nickname, which wouldn't be a joking nickname. It would actually be my nickname for the rest of the time on the team. And he was a really great guy. I liked that guy a lot. But when I was at practice, everyone just kind of, there wasn't a lot of conversation. You're just kind of that odd man out. So what did I do to start earning their respect? Well, I just trained hard. Every time I got to practice, I would do my best to outcompete them. Now, I wasn't the fastest, so when I was running hard, people would outrun me. I wasn't the most skilled at remembering drills. I wasn't the best at catching or passing, but I did my best every time I was put into those situations. How I really started to prove myself, though, was in hitting drills. Now, that's what I've always been good at, is I had the courage to actually hit somebody hard. A lot of people hit softly, and that's a cardinal sin. You never hit softly. You always hit hard. If you hit softly, you will get hit hard and you will get taken out. But most people have a fear of hitting hard. They are worried that when you hit hard, if you hit hard, you're going to hurt yourself. It's because it is scary. It takes a lot of courage to actually hit somebody with full force with your body. It's a lot easier to kind of slow down and like minimize the impact. So what I did, it didn't really even take in a special skill. All that I had was the ability to keep running and to run at somebody with full force and hit them as hard as I could. So and here's another problem. When I joined that team, I obviously didn't have a starting position already. The person who had the starting position that I wanted, fullback, was the coach's son. We'll call him E. That'll be his name. So if you hear E, that's the kid who I'm talking about. He's the fullback, starting fullback, coach's son. What I did is, I wanted his position. Now that's a little bit difficult. You want the coach's son's position. You feel like you're in a bad spot. You're thinking, how am I going to get this position? I wound up getting it too, but we'll get into that in a minute. So for the first couple games, I come in, and every time they put me on the field, I say, I'm not going to try to make the biggest run or the best run. What I'm going to do is I'm going to hit somebody on the other team as hard as I possibly can. I am going to demoralize the other team. That was my goal when you gave me a football as fullback, especially if you had me run in the middle. After I got past the linemen, my goal was to find the first linebacker who was coming at me, instead of trying to avoid him, because let's say there's a 90% chance that he's going to hit me and a 10% chance that I'm going to get around him. Instead of trying to get that 10% chance where I get an extra 10, 15 yards, which would be a really good run, or maybe even a breakaway, instead of that, I'm going to just accept that I'm probably going to get hit, right? I'm just going to hit him as hard as I can. Because linebackers really like to hit when they're not being hit back, but most linebackers will actually lose morale eventually. At first, when you hit somebody really hard as the fullback and you hit that linebacker and he goes down, he's going to actually get more aggressive. He's going to say, oh, who does this guy think he is? He's going to say, screw this guy, and he's going to actually try to hit you harder. So that's something you're going to have to expect. But eventually, if you keep meeting him over and over and over again, most linebackers are actually going to eventually start hitting softly. They're going to realize this guy isn't giving up, so they're just going to avoid contact completely. So that was my method. I would just hit the person as hard as I could and try to hammer it in. Now, part of my philosophy with linebacker goes back to that I have a more old school sort of football philosophy. My heroes were old school, running backs from the 70s, like Larry Zonka. Guys who just hit people. They didn't even care. They were just playing football to hit people. And that was my goal, was to demoralize the other team. Well, for the first couple games, I kind of proved that I could play football and that I could get some big hits, but they really didn't trust me to actually be the main guy. And obviously, you're not just going to get that. When somebody's the fullback, they've been training to be the fullback, they're the coach's son for years, you're not just going to get that position on the first game. Well, a couple games into the season, we had a game, and I was especially mad. So that cheerleader girl who I was hanging out with and dating, she made me mad for some reason or another. I can't even remember why now. But she'd pissed me off. So what I started doing, so I was just upset. I was in the kind of headspace where I'm just ready to go. And I was just ready to hit. So when it comes in, it's actually a late game. It's dark. Lights are on the field. And coach is waiting there. And we were getting pummeled. This team was way better than us. And the coach's son was just not going in. He wasn't taking the gaps. He was like bouncing around, trying to find a way through because, they were just getting crushed on the line. So he was trying to find his way through. Well, the coach just decides, all right, my son's not playing all that good right now, so I'm going to put in this other guy to go and take some hits. Well, what I did is, instead of trying to bounce around, I would just run through the hole, full speed. I would just go fast, and I would just hit anybody who got in my way. That was my goal. And I was actually I don't know why, but I was just killing it. That method was working for that game, was just running through the line. First time I get the ball, 10-yard run, right? I'm down, boom, ball gets spiked, grab the ball, go in, run through the line. All right, slight contact with the lineman, but I keep going. All right, another guy's tried to get in my way, boom, truck him, take him down. Another guy comes in, head-to-head, boom, head-to-head contact, helmet breaks. All right, Now, it didn't like break visibly, like you could see it, but like you just hear this like every time I move, just this rattling noise. Okay, I kind of tell the coach, and he's like, all right, we'll get you a new helmet, but I just kept going. What actually happened is, I don't know what exactly happened, but the helmet was broken. They retired that helmet after that game, which is something that I'm immensely proud of, is that I retired a helmet on the football field because I hit somebody that hard. Well, they kept putting me in, and I basically played almost for the rest of that game. He'd put the coach's son in, he wouldn't get all that many yards. I think I got 2 touchdowns. I was the only person, I believe, who got any touchdowns. There might have been one other guy on our team who got a touchdown. We lost that game, but what I did is, I just killed it. Every single run, including a giant, like, 70-yard run across the field, up the gut, I ran through. I don't know what I did, but I just ran through. There was this, I believe it was a fake. So they would have me look like I was going to run this way, boom, turn, run through the other way. Perfect fake, left me the perfect gap, ran 70 yards. But what I really did is, I just crushed people. I got so many big hits on that game. I probably, like, completely blew up another guy like 15 times during that game. It was probably my best game I ever played. So even though our team wasn't doing all that good, I killed it. And after I had done that well on the football field, after I had just proven that I could, even in the hardest of situations, hold my own, and I could actually lay down damage on the other team, that's how I actually gained the respect of my peers. Before that, they were kind of like, who is this guy? After that, when we went to eat afterwards, I could tell that the atmosphere had shifted, right? Everybody on the bus home was looking at me because I had carried the game. And that's how I actually also got the starting position. But everybody knew that I was the guy in that game. I was the one who carried the game. And from that point forward, I had earned the respect of my peers. And there's something about earning respect. Okay, when it's given to you for free, it doesn't mean anything. When people just visibly give you respect and just kind of like pretend that they care, when you know that you've actually gained respect, you feel an immense, I don't even know what the word would be. You feel immense pride in that, though. When you've gained the respect of people who before kind of halfway were just like, and then you know that you've proven to them that you're a man who can walk amongst them. That's one of the greatest feelings you can ever get. So if you aren't feeling respected right now, one of the things that I would look at is, this is an opportunity for me to actually gain respect, not fake outward respect where people just kind of pretend to respect each other, a real, actual respect. These people are being honest with you how they feel. Okay, they're not trying to hide anything. So that's a great time where you can actually really gain respect. Now, let me continue on that story. So I had finally gained the respect of the team, and the coach's son was not happy with me because I took his position, right? Imagine if your dad, you were starting fullback, and your dad actually gave you, or gave someone else, your position. I'd be pretty mad too. I don't blame him. And I remember it actually got pretty chippy for a while. He was mad at me. I actually liked the guy, and me and him actually wound up liking each other a lot after. But yeah, for a little while, I was his mortal enemy. And every practice, he was out to try to hit me as hard as he could. But that's all right, and it was good fun. And eventually he even gained respect for me, and we got along. And he became starting linebacker. That was his position. I was starting fullback, and it worked out pretty well. Now, another example I want to give about earning respect is Teddy Roosevelt. I don't have too much longer to go on this video. I'm about to be done. But Teddy Roosevelt, he was an East Coast boy, silver spoon in his mouth, rich from New York. You can't expect that you're going to get respect from, a bunch of cowboys if you haven't. I'm gonna wave at these guys. You can't expect that you're gonna get a lot of respect if you. Where is I going with this? Hold on, give me just a second. But you can't expect that you're going to get a lot of respect from a bunch of urban cowboys if you're a rich city folk who's never done this stuff. How did Teddy Roosevelt earn so much respect from Westerners and from cowboys? And now he's almost the archetype of the American cowboy. Well, it's because he just went along with the guys and did what the guys did. So while most rich bosses who just bought a ranch out west to make some money and play cowboy wouldn't actually do the real work, Teddy Roosevelt just got in with the guys and did the work. If you want to earn respect, do what the other guys do and try to do it better than them, not to show off. You don't want to be like, oh, I'm better than you, And you don't even have to be better than them. You just have to show that you can hang in with the other guys. And you have to show that you're tough, and you have to show that you're putting in as much of your own ability as you possibly can. If you wind up being better, that's good. Although you don't want to outshine the master. If there's somebody else who's higher than you, you can do better than them, but you want to act as though they're doing better than you, because you don't want to wind up like Solomon and David. You ever hear that story in the Bible where Solomon gets jealous of David because the ladies are singing, Saul has slayed his thousands and David his 10,000s. You don't want to start that kind of a rivalry against somebody who's above you and below, but you still want to do your best. And you want to prove that you can be strong, and you want to prove that you can actually handle it. But what's most important is that you show that you aren't going to back down, and you show that you have grit. All right, that's going to be my video on how to earn respect. I don't know if I'm going to post it or not, but thank you for watching. Have a good day. Bye.